I decided to use a Clawdeen Wolf doll from Monster High. The skin color and face mold on this doll are a great fit for bringing Tia Dalma to life in doll form. First, I remove her paint job with 100% acetone. Use a Q-tip to get the hard-to-reach places. Now it's time for a haircut and a dunk in hot water. Now her head should come off pretty easily off of the neck peg. I'm trimming her hair down using cuticle scissors. Sorry Clawdeen, but the ears have to go. Next, I'm painting where the hair will go, which is completely unnecessary. We won't see her hairline at all, but because the hair isn't easy to undo, I guess I wanted to be thorough just in case. Now she's ready for re-rooting. For the hair, I'm using merino. This is the same material used in felting. I varied the colors to give the hair some dimension because Tia Dalma has some lighter colored dreadlocks towards her face. Now we're ready to make the dreads. For this process, we need water and soap to do some wet felting. I grab a section of hair I want to form into a lock and then wet it down. I put a bit of soap on my already wet hands and then palm roll. This felts the hair together. I vary the size and length of the dreads to make them more realistic and cut them short in the front. Once they're dry, you're left with beautiful dreads. I'm preparing the body by removing the mold lines or flash. First, I use a blade to carefully remove the excess. Be careful not to gouge the body, or yourself for that matter. I'm taking a piece of sanding block to smooth it out. It takes time, but it makes the blushing look better. On to the face repaint. I prime with Mr. Super Clear, and I'm starting by blushing the doll with soft pastels. I'm using a rusty red color for her cheeks, chin, nose, and forehead. Taking a brown color, I add shading to her face for dimension. I'm taking black pastel and using that for the eyeshadow and the lips. I filled in the mouth hole with air dry clay, and I'm covering it with black watercolor pencil. Spray with Mr. Super Clear to seal your progress. I'm sketching in the eyes with a brown pencil. I do this step lightly in case I need to go back and change anything. Once I'm happy with the shape, I go in with a darker color and then add white. Building up the white takes a lot of layers, but the payoff is worth it. I add 3 different shades of pink for the waterline. Add some shading to the whites of the eye for more dimension. I'm going in with the yellow all over the iris. I sketch the brows using brown soft pastel. Next, I'm layering orange over top of the yellow and adding fine hair strokes to create the eyebrows. Next, I'm adding another layer to the eye color and then softening the overall look by using pastels. I decided to use watercolor pencil for the lashes and save the false lashes for another doll. I think the drawn-on lashes suit her overall look more. For her makeup, I like when it's heavier, like in this photo from the third movie, At World's End. I'm making them uneven for a natural look. With the same pencil, I add in the pupils. Taking the orange again, I add in highlights to the iris. Now that I've reached a saturation that I'm happy with, it's time to add the finishing details. Taking black acrylic paint and a liner brush, I'm going over the pupils, the center of the lips, and the lash line to darken things up. Using white gouache, I add highlights. I use a white pencil for additional highlight, and then go over it as well as the bottom with more gouache to brighten it up. One last final spray. Moving on to her hair accessories, I add some small feathers that my budgies left behind as presents, so thoughtful of them. Since they're not the color that I need, I use orange soft pastels. I glue them onto string to be able to tie them into the dreads. I also added a couple of dread wraps in the front. The dreads in the front were sticking straight up, so I wet them slightly and added some pins to hold them down. Once they dried, they stayed in the position they were pinned to. I'm adding gloss to the inner corner and inner 1/3 of the waterline, and her head is now done. I'm blushing the upper body using the same two colors I used to blush her face. I'm using a peach watercolor pencil for her nails. I'm adding some black to her hands more heavily than I want it to be. When you spray MSC, you can lose some of the color that you originally put on. One final spray and her body's done. Her costume is pretty intricate. She has a 3-layered skirt, and this is the general color palette. I'm going for getting the feel of her costume and not necessarily trying to replicate exactly how it is in the movie. Altogether, I'll be making a corset, belt, skirts, jacket, shawl, and her necklaces. Starting with the corset, I'm making a pattern and then cutting out the fabric and sewing. The material was the right color and texture I was looking for, so it was a great find. I'm hand stitching detail to the top and bottom of the corset. I'm taking some tassel trim and cutting down the strings to scale them down. Now I'm sketching out where the detailing on the corset will go. I use a combination of acrylic paint and thread to get the look of her corset. I found this fabric for the bottom skirt and this one for the top. I dyed both fabrics in a tea bath. I used black tea and let the fabric soak for 20 minutes, rinsed well, and then let them dry. I'm really happy with the result. The bottom skirt layer is a sheath skirt. I painted the top layer with watered down orange acrylic paint, following the lines. I used the same method of trimming down the tassel with this yellow trim and used Fabri-Tac to add it onto the bottom of the skirt. While that was setting, I added on more of the red trim with some lace to the bottom sheath layer of the skirt. The skirt will be in two parts, with the first and second layer being attached, and this bottom layer separate underneath. The fabric wasn't as red as I would like, so I'm adding more red detailing with acrylic paint. Now that the top skirt is ready, I'm changing the color of the trim by using soft pastels. Now on to the fun part. I age and dirty the fabric with pastels, going for the weathered look and feel of her costume. Onto the middle layer, I'm distressing the fabric and adding soft pastels. This layer is going to be attached to the first layer. This definitely gets messy, as you can see. I cut up yarn fibers to add on the floral embroidery that her skirt has and glue them in place. Spray with hairspray to seal the pastels into the fabric. I bustled up the top skirt and it's done. Using the same corset fabric to make the belt, I cut up more yarn fiber to make the fur. I used tulle for the netting on her corset. I used polymer clay to make the cowrie shells that go on the belt. I glued them in place and I'm adding a wash of brown acrylic paint to bring out the details and add color to the shells. Moving on to her jacket, these stills from Kingdom Hearts 3 show her jacket well. I'm pleased with the fabric that I was able to find. I made a pattern, added on the sleeves, and then gathered the fabric underneath the top of the coat to see how it would fall, and then sewed it in place. I'm adding the ruffles onto the jacket. I would have preferred to sew the ruffles on, but as it got to the smaller parts of the ruffles towards the top of the coat, it was too small for my machine and the ruffles were very fiddly to try to keep in place. So I went for Fabri-Tac, which did the job pretty well. I painted the ruffles with acrylic paints. I did get a small dot of paint onto the fabric of the jacket, despite trying my best to be careful. It was covered well though. I used white soft pastels, and then after the antiquing and weathering process, it wasn't really noticeable. I'm adding green trim, and will be using beads as the shells to decorate her jacket. I found this netting that I was originally going to use for her corset, but the holes were way too big for that, so it worked out perfectly for the back of her jacket. And the jacket's done. I could have found a shawl in a more accurate color and pattern, but this fabric spoke to me at the store and it said, "Buy me," so I did. I love the raised texture and the detailing on the stretch lace so much, I just decided to go with it. I may update her shawl in the future if it starts to bother me, but I really like it, even if it's not the most accurate. I gave it a wash in brown acrylic paint to tone the color. Next, I'm sculpting her necklaces from polymer clay. She has a claw, a chicken foot, and of course the locket. I embed a metal loop in each one so that I can attach it to the necklace. They all get a base coat of black, and then painted with acrylics on top. I added microbeads to the necklace, and we're done. I'm pretty pleased with how she turned out. I can see myself adding things onto her costume and redoing things, especially as my sewing skills get better, but for now I'm really happy with how she turned out.